I was like,
Oh.
yeah, it's going to come from the headphones because that's where the mic is hooked up to.
Look at that. Hi.
We are together.
Together looking like little potatoes.
We just had a
Little
5-minute conversation
potatoes gonna take.
about how we look in the Zoom video, and it just is what it is.
It's not doing much for us.
I was actually talking to a client yesterday. I was like so distracted. This sounds so vain, but I was like so distracted looking at myself when I was meeting with her. I was like, oh, I hate having to look at myself. She's like, me too. And I was like, oh, thank God I'm not the only one because this is so uncomfortable right now.
Yeah.
And we do it day in and day out.
Hours at a time, just staring at ourselves.
And I used to think my cousin was like, not crazy, that's not the right word, but when she would say like, dude, I hate that I have to look at myself all day, I'm like, how bad can it be? Well, now I fucking know how bad it is.
It's not a good time.
Not fun.
It's not a good time.
Not fun. And I also feel like if I had to look at myself through a hairdresser mirror all day, every day, absolutely not. I feel my ugliest from getting my hair done until the end.
The fucking lights, dude.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And then you put the cape on and you just look like Mr. Potato Head. Look, I got the first.
Make it make sense.
It happened again in my session, and I was like, whenever somebody tries to looks,
I love it.
Understand.
I'm gonna just keep doing that because that made us look really good.
Don't understand. It's so
wild.
weird. Which means you guys have to go on YouTube and watch our video because you'll see all this like craziness that we're talking about. Do you remember what episode we're on?
Oh fuck. 113.
Yes, very good. I was like, it's not 112. I don't think.
Like,
we just
no,
posted that one.
I was like, we did our angel numbers episode and then we recorded another one. 113. So this is like your episode. Hey. Favorite number? 13.
We were talking about our lives in general and about like how we handle embarrassment. Yes. Specifically, we were talking about how to handle embarrassment as a parent. Like that has been a theme for both of us over the past few weeks. But I was like, we could definitely talk about how to handle embarrassment, like in general, period. Because I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with, whether it's because of social anxiety or because, you know, low self-esteem or all the things. So specifically, when we were talking in Marco's yesterday, we were talking about our experience as therapists and how when something happens with our kids, there is this immediate, at least for me, and I know that you kind of share the same thing, but like there's this immediate embarrassment of like, I'm a therapist, this shouldn't be happening. This is so embarrassing, right? Of like, if my kid can't manage his emotions, which here's the thing, that's completely emotion-based thinking, 1000% emotion-based, because logically I'm like, bitch, he's his own person. He's going to make his own choices. He's going to do things that have absolutely nothing to do with me, or my parenting or what goes on at our house, like all the things. And I think it's interesting because when I'm going through it, Mari's able to like rationalize that for me. But in my brain, I'm like, no, it's different, right? Like everything else in life. But then when she was going through it and I was able to repeat it, and I was like, I'm fully aware that like when you're going through it, it doesn't feel like that is relevant or like that applies to you, but it does. That's no different than any other cognitive error that you experience when you convince yourself that like, but my situation's different or I'm different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's hard when you're in the middle of it too, just because of the shame that's coming up, like surrounding it, of like the internalization of like, this isn't just something that is happening that is an accident or a mistake. It's that like, I am responsible for this, or like I'm internalizing it as like, this is a direct reflection on me, versus not being able to understand, like our kids are going to have their own free will and they have to learn how to handle different situations themselves and the choices that they make. And like, also, I didn't learn in my life how to become a healthier human being by somebody telling me what to do. Like I learned because of experience and by example and by, yeah, I mean, those two ways basically of like, that's how I learned how I wanted to be and how it felt to like, okay, I'm going to try this and behave this way. And like, oh, I didn't like that. And so I'm going to go this way and do that. And so I think that that's the also the other part of being a parent is or even like a partner, a spouse, whatever. It's hard to watch the person that we love go through something that we know that they're struggling with. And we know that is it's not going to go well because maybe we've had a similar experience. We have to let them have that experience though, in order to learn, because that's how our brains learn. It's not failing. it's feedback. Their brain needs the feedback to then be able to make the decision.
I was talking to a new client yesterday and we were talking about cognitive errors and personalizing and stuff. And I think personalizing is something that I probably have struggled with since I was like younger. But then if you really think about where that comes from, I think that more times than not, it comes from like the other person not communicating with you about what's going on. Right.
Yeah.
So if like, for example, when I was growing up, obviously it was my parents in the home and my brother. So if my mom was feeling some type of way and she was ignoring me or was short with me, my automatic assumption is because I did something wrong. And if she's not telling me otherwise, how am I supposed to know that that's not the case?
Especially I think as kids,
Sure.
Right. Like, sure, as adults, we can take a step back and start rationalizing and making those differentiations. But I think as kids, like it happened this morning. I had to take Sophia to the doctor. It was her annual appointment. And then, I forgot that she needed to get 2 vaccines. And then at this appointment, the doctor, because it was a new doctor too, because her pediatrician retired, so we we're going to a new doctor. That doctor said that we had to do a blood draw too, because they wanted to check our vitamin D levels and triglycerides and stuff, which to me is like young for checking that, but also like, okay, maybe they're just seeing like a rise in well, I would say probably a rise in obesity just because of the foods that are available to kids and how quick it is. So I'm not upset about having to do that, but I knew that like, oh fuck, here we go.
There was no preparation.
Yeah, exactly. There was no preparation. I didn't give her a chance. I wasn't able to talk her into it. I wasn't able to like ease the way. And so I felt real anxious. I felt real on edge. And then it came time for the women to come. Well, it was supposed to be a woman. So then the lady came in to give a shot. And then the one lady heard us and was like, hey, do you need help in here? And Lily was like, oh, maybe. And I was like, oh God. And then Sophia's sobbing, like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So then I start fucking crying, like tearing up. I wasn't like sobbing, but it would like, then I just felt this immediate like shame come up of like, this is your fault. You could have easily avoided this, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, how embarrassing. This is the first impression. Like, and we can't get it together. And you're crying. Like, who the fuck cries at their kids thing, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like in my head and I was like, Mari, you're having a reaction because this is very reminiscent of where you were when she was 2 months and you had to go by yourself. Well, my mom came with, but like, her father wasn't there, had to go for her 2-month checkup. Her father's been in her week checkup after birth and then has not been in any of her doctor's appointments. So I've done all of them, but it was very reminiscent of her 2-month-old where they get all of their shots and updates.
I mean, my mom come with me too.
And I literally was like, you know, because I'm still like healing from birth. I'm still like, you know, new to this. You don't have any sleep and it's just so
sad and like little and they're fragile.
And Sophia was a peanut. I think at that point maybe she was 9 pounds at 2 months. Like she was a peanut. So I was just like and she's like screaming and I felt like I couldn't do anything because there isn't anything I can do, right? It's just that experience of helplessness. So then I'm like, Mari, this is reminiscent of that, and that's why you're crying, because it's pulling up those emotions from that experience and also another experience. You're watching your daughter go through something that you've experienced. You know exactly what she's feeling. So like then, you know, we're like crying, trying to get it together. They finally do the shots. She's screamed like, and I was like, oh my God. So they left the room and like they left pretty quickly, which my personalization there, the interpretation is like they're embarrassed, they're like leaving us to this like
gotta get out of this room fast enough,
shame room. Like, and then I was like, it's just embarrassing, Sophia. And she's like, I'm sorry, I was just scared. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, no, I'm so like, I feel bad. I know it's painful. I know it's like, and then I'm just reflecting because like, well, you tensed up, honey, and now it's going to hurt more. And I'm like, just like trying to reason with her, but I don't know. My interpretation though is like in her little brain, she's not hearing me being upset that she had to go through this. She's hearing me say, I'm embarrassed and you're the cause.
Yes, correct.
So then we calmed down, we got to the car, and I was like, Soph, I need you to hear this when I say this. I am not embarrassed because of you. I am embarrassed because of the situation. I'm sad I didn't prepare you for this. I am sad that this got sprung on you. I'm sad that you had to go through it because I know what that feels like and I just feel for you. I don't want you to be in pain. I said, so it's the situation. It is nothing to do with you or your behavior. I said, and it can be embarrassing sometimes to cry around people that you don't know.
Sure.
I said, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to cry. It doesn't mean that I'm going to stop how I'm feeling. It just means that like I'm acknowledging that I feel this, and then I'm gonna like we're gonna get over that, and that's gonna be okay. We're gonna move through it. And she was like, okay. And so like I was happy that we had the time to like sit and reflect and whatever. But like in my mind, I was like, you're fucking traumatizing her right now. Just like, you fucking idiot kid.
Yes.
Like I just was like, oh my God.
I feel like that's how I interpret every situation with my child because I'm a therapist and I overthink fucking every experience of my life. Not literally, but
I get it. Well, like, and I think it was hard too of like, I knew that I wasn't overthinking that because of the way that she was responding to me, right, too. Because like I was like, I know how you just interpreted that shit. Okay, we've got to go back and talk about it again. We've got to like I've got to make another point. And I'll probably follow it up like when I pick her up from school and like be like, you know, how are you feeling about this morning? Like, you know, do you think I was mad at you? Because then the other time, because I said to her when I was dropping her off, and like, if you feel sick at all, like some people feel vaccines and some people don't. Some people are completely fine and some people really don't feel good. I said, if you don't feel good, call me. I will come get you. Like, I don't, she doesn't really ever miss because she's just not a sick kid normally. And I don't ever like pull her for a mental health day. I'm like trying to save those for like high school and whatnot. But in my mind, I'm like, it's okay. Like, you have no after school things today. We have nothing planned. We can go home and rest. Like, so you let me know. And she's like, well, last time I called you to come pick me up, you were mad at me. And I was like, what? And she was like, cause she had to go to the bathroom. Like she had diarrhea. So I didn't know if she was being real or not. And I said, well, if you don't go to school, you can't go to soccer.
Yes.
Like, that's just not how that works. And she's like, well, I really want to go to soccer. So this kid, she was like 6, 7. She told them, well, my mom said I had to come to school because I wanted to go to soccer. And I was like, I said, no, honey, I was embarrassed that you said that because they're probably thinking like, oh, you're just sending your kid to school. I said, we didn't know. I said that's not your fault. That's me. Like thinking about what other people are thinking or feeling. But like in reality, like I can't control what they think or feel about me. So it doesn't matter. But like, that's not your fault or anything. I said, I'm sorry that you thought I was mad at you. I'm never going to be mad. I'm not mad that you don't feel good and need to come home from school.
Correct. I
was like, you don't ever call. You don't ever, you know, like maybe there's a pushback in the morning of like, oh, I don't want to go. But she always goes. So I just was like, oh my God.
Are you the type of person that ever like after a social interaction, you overthink it and you're like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassing?
I sometimes think about the interactions I've had with clients.
Okay.
And like what I've said or what I didn't say. No, it's more so what I've said and then being like, I don't know how that was interpreted.
But that's not embarrassment though. Yeah, that's more so like, I want to make sure that I'm coming across in the way that I want to come across. Yeah. I feel like I have so many clients that are like, you know, I'll get home from going out and be like, oh my God, I said this and that sounds so stupid. Or like, they probably think I'm such an idiot. Like, I don't think that I've ever had a thought process like that, mainly because like, not that I don't talk when I go out, but like, I'm more of an observer and I'll talk to you when I feel ready. So I'm not just like word vomiting all the time. And there's no shame if like, that's how you interact with people. That's just not me because I'm not comfortable.
I would say like, I remember my first class of grad school. Like they asked us to like talk about ourselves.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah. And we had just done like a personality test as part of like a group activity for the job that I was working at. So like I led with that. And like, I still to this day, I'm like, you know, but like, I was so excited to get started. So then like, there's a little embarrassment, but it's not like, oh, you're so stupid. It's like, you were so excited. Well, it's like, I want to hug my younger self of like, you're so cute. Yes. Like, silly little young kid. You're 26, 25.
Well,
like,
and I do think sometimes like, I will not necessarily overthink, but be like, oh, did I overshare?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not like a sense of embarrassment. I think it's more so for me, like, do I trust that person enough to tell them that information?
Yes.
Like that
Yeah.
might have not have been a great choice, but
Yeah.
it's done now.
Yeah, it's
So
over with.
it is what it
I
is.
will say I do see that a lot with clients that
All
they're
the
like, and
time.
it's so embarrassing, so these things. But then like I bring that to challenge it with like, if you were sharing and you felt good about being in that space, then what is the purpose of coming home and destroying that moment that you felt like you're taking away that neutrality or positivity that you felt in that moment by feeling comfortable to like open up or share or be goofy or silly or whatever that you did. You're taking that gratitude away from yourself.
Well, and you're also making assumptions about what the other person feels. You have no idea.
Exactly.
So you're torturing yourself for what? For no reason.
Yeah.
I literally have clients be like, yeah, I remember this time in 6th grade, I said blah, blah. And I'm like, why you're 30. Why are you thinking about something that happened 20 years ago? What are you talking about?
Well, like, and not, I mean, I have like moments where I think about shit that I did, but like, instead of allowing that to like rule your thoughts for the day in the sense of like, I'm this, I'm that, like, can't we just reflect and be like, silly little kid.
Right. Or like, I didn't know any better,
like,
or I was young, I was still learning or whatever.
Yes. Like have some sort of understanding of like, it's okay to be embarrassed by my younger self because my younger self was figuring it out.
I did plenty of embarrassing things.
Oh my God,
growing up. I don't know what's like growing up and as a fucking adult.
Yeah.
Because that was before I realized like I had the power to change things. I didn't have to continue to be an asshole about things or like make people feel like shit because that's how I thought that I could get my point across. You know what I mean? But again, I'm not going to sit in shame about how I probably hurt a lot of people's feelings. Like it is what it is. All I know is moving forward, I'm not going to do that.
Well, and that's where I get into this discussion with clients of like, instead of viewing everything as failure, you have to switch that narrative to its feedback.
Correct.
So the feedback was given of me talking to people like this, then has people behave like this, or people don't want to interact with me and or I don't have meaningful connections. I don't feel good when I interact like that. So now I know I need to change it. That's feedback. And now you've changed that. And so going forward then now, okay, the feedback I'm getting is that like people are talking to me or people feel communicative or blah, 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 whatever that it is. Like that's all that we need to be looking for. Like it's just it's interactions, the feedback that you're getting, and then taking that and moving through it to then create a new way or behavior, right? Of whether it's communication, whether it's like a route you're doing, or whether it's a routine or whatever that it is, it doesn't matter. That's happening with everything.
So ultimately you have the choice to view it as a learning experience or a shame experience that you will then perpetuate your own suffering. Like the choice is yours. And whenever I ask clients, like, do you want to perpetuate your own suffering? Do you want to stay miserable? I would hope the answer would be no. And so you have the power and control to be like, okay, well, I just have to talk to myself differently then about this experience. Like,
and like, it is so important to be mindful in that moment. Had I not been mindful this morning in that moment, I wouldn't have then understood like, oh shit, she internalized that.
Sure.
She internalized that as like, it's her fault. And she's apologized. She apologized like 3 times. And like every time until we got to the car and I like turned around and sat and I was like, so that's nothing that you need to apologize for. Like that's my own feelings. You didn't make those for me. That's how I just feel about this situation and the interactions I had with those nurses. They're very sweet. This is all in my head, honey. Like none of them were like, oh my God, or whatever. Like the one that came in to help was in the elevator with us. So I think that she like came in to offer of like as a source of support because like, oh, familiar face, like you saw me in the elevator, because everyone was new to us because it was a new doctor. So it's so important to be mindful in those moments of like, what, like take a step back for a second. What am I feeling in this present moment? What is going on? What am I reacting to? And I understand that it's not going to be easy in the beginning for that to happen. Here's the thing. It's never going to get easier or more fluid until you start practicing it. I can promise you in the beginning, when I started doing thought work, it was not easy to be in the moment and be like, what am I reacting to?
Correct.
I would react and then bring myself back and be like, wait, hold on. What was going on? And then I would go be accountable to my behavior. And that's it going forward. Like even last night it happened. We were hanging out with friends. Jeff was talking about a show he was watching. And I said, well, Jeff said something like, well, Mari doesn't like the show that I'm watching. And I was like, well, you started it without me. And the way
what show is it?
The Fall of Ushers, or
the Fall in the House of Ushers. You're not gonna like it. It's scary.
Yeah. So he said it, and I was like, well, I didn't even you started it without me. But like the way that I like my tone and my facial expressions, my friend Steph was like, And I was like, no, I didn't. And so again, being accountable in that moment, I was like, no, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant like he started watching it without me, which is fine. I never said I wanted to watch it. And then I was on my phone or doing something and he was watching it in the room and I like looked up and it was like a crazy ass fucking moment. I was like, what the fuck is this show about? Like, what is going on? So like, it doesn't even pique my interest, but again, correcting myself in that moment. So there isn't this one interpretation on Jeff's side of like, you bitch, like or whatever, like, oh, that was sassy, and then correcting my friend's reaction of like, and I was like, no. So that even that's I didn't fail in the way that I delivered. I didn't fail in the way that I expressed it. It's just about correcting yourself and being present in that moment to acknowledge what's going on around you and your interactions with people. It's so important. So important.
Sidebar, the show is amazing. It's Edgar Allan Poe based. Just throwing it out there.
I
binged
like,
it all in one weekend, but I don't know that you would like it because it's pretty like gory, scary. Like,
see, gory doesn't bother me. It's the jump scare shit, which usually is then what comes with the horror part. Like, I don't mind if like you see people's like guts and stuff hanging out.
Yeah,
I mind somebody lurking and stalking.
You would have hated the movie I watched yesterday.
No, like don't pop out. Don't.
I was in my head. I was thinking when I was watching it, I was like, there is something to be said about like a musical score in a movie that like the music builds up and is creepy, bitch. But the one I watched yesterday, there was silence, which made it so much fucking worse because you're like waiting for like the scare to happen and it's silent. Yes, feel it. Where I was like, I'm uncomfortable. But anyways,
that is feel my fucking heart. Well, say what that one is just in case somebody wants to listen to it.
Oh, that was the Hell House LLC. The origin story, I think it's called, or like the Carmichael estate or something like that. It was really good. But if you don't have Shudder, you can't watch it. So there's that. But the other thing I was thinking about is this is something that I've been trying to teach Bug for a long time because he gets easily embarrassed about things and they might not even be what like quote unquote everybody would be embarrassed by. But he views a lot of things as embarrassing. I was like, here's the way to get over embarrassment. You fucking laugh with those people. Like if they're laughing, quote unquote, at you because something happened, you laugh with them, then you don't feel dumb. I had a friend that was like really fucking good at that in high school. And I was like, man, I wish I could be like Jill because she just laughs off everything. And like people like love that. Whereas like I'm mortified where I'm like, I'm never coming to school again.
Like literally that's because I talked her into going to get the blood draw afterwards. We left the car again. And this really sweet guy in the waiting room could see that she was distressed. And he was like, just like trying to like talk her up and build her up. And like, it was so sweet that like I started tearing up again. And I was like, oh my God. And then they like left and they called us back. And I like looked us up and I was like, I didn't think he was going to stop talking. And like, we kind of chuckled together. I was like, girl, I almost started crying again. And so like, it kind of broke that tension there too. And like got me out of that, like, again, feeling like, bitch, you're a whole ass adult.
Get it together.
Why are you crying right now? And then it's like, why am I shaming myself for having emotions? It's my body is tense and I'm releasing tension. That's all that it is. It means nothing else. So
dude, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but in 8th grade, I had my period so bad that I bled through the dress I was wearing.
Oh, I would literally die.
Bitch, I had like a tampon and like I was bleeding to death. So I stood up and I had a black, white, and gray camo dress on and it was blatantly obvious. And I think I could feel it. And I was trying to like stall getting up. And then somebody pointed it out and I was like, no, I think I said on catch up. Because what are you going to say? You're like 13 years old. I was fucking mortified. Went home, washed my dress, put on jeans and went back to school. Like,
I'm proud of you.
Well, I think my mom made me. Like, I don't think I wanted to. But like, I feel like that is an experience that nearly every woman has had, that they've bled through something or the fear of bleeding through something. Here's the thing. 39-year-old me would be like, it's fucking blood. It is what it is. Fucking get over it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And I think that too, it's like in that it's 39-year-old you has had monthly exposure.
100%.
Right. So like, that's the other thing too, of like the exposure to the situation to then become more comfortable.
So like normalize it.
Normalize it. Of like, it is what it is. But oh my God. Absolutely. I think I had one of those moments, but nobody caught it yet. I got my period when I was at Skate Town. And because it was close enough, I just walked home.
Sure.
Like, so thank God it was like, not thank God. Well, like, thank God, but not thank God. Not that nobody kidnapped me. But thank God that it was like in the era where like there weren't cell phones and like you could just leave. Like there wasn't like the teachers weren't like, well, there weren't even teachers there because it was an after school thing.
Sure.
So it's not like no adult was like, well, you can't leave.
Right.
Because I would have been like, oh no, I have to. But
I think about being in elementary school and like a kid pukes and they come and pour the wood chips over it. And all the kids are like, oh, did you see so-and-so puke? Like I have to tell Bug, I'm like, don't ever point that out, honey. That's so hard for somebody to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they feel so embarrassed. Or little things like, he has a classmate, I was gonna say coworker, what the fuck? He has
at his job, at his 9 to 5.
It's a classmate who is literally taller than me. She's very, very tall. And he goes, I wanted to ask her how tall she was. I said, honey, I think that's probably really hard for her. And she probably gets asked that a lot. And like, not that I want to like save her from embarrassment, but like, let's not just like feed into this like stereotype of like always asking tall people like, well, how tall are you? Or how short are you? You know?
And like, maybe like have an interaction, and you can explain this to him in kid ways of like, have an interaction where we normalize her height. Like,
or even say like, I think it's really cool that you're tall.
Yeah,
you know,
got her
like
before everybody else. And if she continues to grow, awesome. There's going to be amazing things that she can do.
Correct.
That like for just sports wise, but also just in general life wise. Like, Sophia's never going to be able to get a hanger off the top. Never. She will always have to use the chair. That girl will not. And that is probably relieving. Like, Sophia had to like,
help people at Walmart get something off the top shelf.
Sophia had to like strong arm herself up onto the dock checkout, like the little checkout bed. And I was like, do you need help? Like, she was like, like that girl, little leg up.
Yep.
So
yes,
there's wins. There's wins there. So
again, just like we say all the time, it just comes down to how you talk to yourself about the situation.
Quite literally.
If you're reeling in embarrassment and telling yourself like you're the fucking worst or you're so stupid, that's not going to end. You're going to continue to live like that.
Your brain is going to devour what you feed it. And if you are feeding it negativity based off of your experiences, it is going to search for negativity in the next experiences.
Or your assumptions, not even your experiences sometimes. Sometimes it's your assumptions. I can speak to that of when I get in thought spirals and I convince myself that all these things are happening and I don't fucking have proof of any of them. No. And then 3 days later, I'm like, you're nuts. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
You come to and you're like,
where I'm like, why do I do that to myself?
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
We want to attempt to predict what's going to happen because we feel that if I'm ready or prepared for what's going to happen, then it's going to make it easier.
Yep.
No, it's
false.
Not. No, it's false.
Fake news. Fake news.
Fake news. Cap. Factor cap. So, yeah. All right, guys. I've had enough of staring at myself.
Same. Now we got to go dye my roots.
Yep. We love you guys. Until next time.
Bye.